Sup, for you new subscribers, or you just haven't seen this before, this is pack versus pack, where we put two packs against each other, and this month the requester is Yugi514. Now, usually we do this every month, but we took kind of a summer break. I believe it was a summer break. A lot of that was to try to see if we can up the content on the council, and we did. It was great. But I also wanted to update this in Card versus Card. Card versus Card is now being worked on. Once this comes out, Card versus Card is now being worked on. But to the left, we have Duelist Revolution. And to the right, we have the Duelist Genesis. Both packs will square off, and we will go down the 10 best cards, pretty much, or the 10 top select Yu-Gi-Oh! Council selected cards, and we will give them a score 1 to 10. I'm trying to make sure I stay on topic and get everything that needs to get into this. Now, why we are counting them down, we want you to vote in the comments 1 through 10 of each card, if you like, or just or either one you feel like. Leave down what you want to see the next pack versus pack, and you'll get a shout out throughout the video. Simple as that. Pretty simple to understand, right? All right, we're going to start with Duelist Revolution. Okay, starting with Duelist Revolution. I'm going to give you a little intro to it, then we're going to start counting them down. I believe it came out in 2009, where the hype of Yugi tubing was, and everyone who was on YouTube would open a box for a chance to pull a Pod Duality, Effect Filler, Scrap Dragon, Solemn Warning. Those are the 4 big cards of the set. But other things helped make their way to the set that made other decks get an appearance, such as Fable Raven, even though I don't really agree with the build of Dark Worlds. Delta Flyer for Disaster Dragons. Horn of the Phantom Beast for any basically beast deck that can get a plus out of it. Scraps made an appearance in this. Infernities got a boost in the form of a Street Patrol. But why am I talking about this? Let's show you the cards. These will be in no particular order, but we're going to start with Effect Filler. Why are we going to start with Effect Filler even though my paper says Pod Duality? Effect Filler has been such a great card. It's a tuner, it's a spellcaster, and you can throw it down and negate an opponent's monster's effect off. No one cared that it had 0 defense, and no one thought it was great at first. And believe me when I say that, a lot of people underhyped this card. This thing was at $10 for a long time, and then quickly skyrocketed to 20 a piece, and then 30. And at one point, it was at $40 a piece. It was light fodder for Chaos, which at the time only had 2 Chaos Sorcerers and a Black Lesser Soldier. Well, it didn't have Black Lesser Soldier, it was just 2 Chaos Sorcerers. I'm sorry, forgetting here. But Effect Filler made its way into every side deck and every person's deck at some point in time. This card's amazing and deserves it. Now, you're going to ask me, where am I going to score it? We're going to score each card 1 to 10. And it's clear to me, without question, that Effect Filler gets a 10 out of 10. You're going to see that popping up now. So let's move on to the next entry. Like I said, in no particular order, we have Delta Flyer, which comes out of Duelist Revolution. It was a great addition. I believe, it was in the set. It wasn't import. And once per turn, you can select one of the face-up monster you control, increase its level by 1. So this also works for Maiden. So if you guys want to run that too, it also runs for Maiden, but it's a tuner. So hence why I don't like running it for Maiden. But I'm getting off track here. It's a wind dragon that could be searched out for Tempest. It was used in the time of Disaster Dragons. I say the time because at that time Red Eyes was back at 2. Well, 3. Sorry, it was at 3. It wasn't even touched by the ban list. No one thought about it. Just a few people. But it was a great addition to the set. It didn't sell the set, but it was one of the rares that took off and just said, I need 2 of them now if I'm playing dragons. So with that said, I know this is going to be a low score out of the 10. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10 because, let's be honest, over time, it hasn't gotten any better. Moving on. You're not going to believe this one when I say this one. Scrap Dragon, again, was an underhyped card because of the fact that Solemn Warning and Pod Duality were the 2 biggest cards of the set. Quickly followed by Effect Filler, and then finally Scrap Dragon, which after YCS Top, after the set was released, skyrocketed its way to $35, $40. Some of us were lucky enough to pick them up for $10. A lot of us were not. But it's seen a reprint, so it's okay. It is definitely still to this day one of those essential, I like throwing the word around, one of those essential synchro monsters in any deck that can make level 8s. At the time, it was saw as a minus, but to jump over things, it was so plus, as you can constantly do it and choose other things. And when I say constantly plus, you would send stuff like Dandelion or a Card Trooper and get a plus off it, and you still do. The card's amazing without question. It was meant for scraps, but it was generic. If it wasn't generic, it wouldn't even be on this list. But I do have to mention scraps now that I bring that up. Scraps are such a deck that they still deserve so much more support than they have right now. I just have to mention this. And it's nice to see that, at least one of the scraps gets attention. Unfortunately, it's not anything that's not generic. But that's the way the game goes. So without further dragging this on, I'm going to give Scrap Dragon a perfect score out of 10 out of 10. Perfect 10. I mentioned this at the beginning of the video. I hinted that it was on this list. Horn of the Phantom Beast. You can target one beast or beast warrior type monster you control, equip it to this target. It gains 800 attack, and when it destroys a monster or battle, you draw a card. Now, why am I even bringing this card up? King Tiger allows you to basically control the field and draw cards constantly. But I feel we haven't seen the full power of this card yet. And I'm not being the guy that says it's broken. It's not. It's very balanced because you need beasts for it. But again, it's like one of those very under-supported types of monsters that if it got the proper support, this card would be that much further. Now, some of you may say Fire Kings. Fire Kings can't really get away with running this. The main creme de la creme, we're going to use that word again, that phrase, the tip of the iceberg, if you want to put it that way, would be running this in Bujin, because Bujin are Beast Warrior type monsters and beast types that get the plus off the draw. And it could help get you to Yamato, but a lot of players maybe have not realized that yet, or just don't like the fact that it has to be equipped. It's all good. I understand. But with that said, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 from the council. When I speak for the council, I'm speaking for myself. All right, moving on. Another reason you bought a box was Solemn Warning. Horn of the Phantom Beast was a good rare. I just want to touch upon that real quick. It was a really good rare. But Solemn Warning came as an Ultra and Ulti. And it did something that Solemn Judgment just could not do, which was negate through battle phase. And at the time, Gorge was a powerhouse of a card. Tragodia was a powerhouse of a card. And Solemn Warning just came in and said, puts the hand up, no, you can't do it. You play Monster Reborn, nope, you can't do it. I don't gotta pay 4,000, I'll just pay 2. This is one that quickly saw its way into every single deck in 3s. 2s to 3s, depending on the person. A lot of people ran at 3. Some people even dropped Solemn Judgment just to run the 3 without losing the life points, and that way they can keep their deck consistent at the time. And sooner or later I'll be going over that in Blast from the Past segment, but I'm trying to come up with a better name than that. So, maybe I'll call it Days of Future Past. I went there. But let me get back on track by saying Solemn Warning is definitely one that made its way into the set and was something that will never be forgotten as such a powerhouse of a card at the time it was at 3. It quickly found its way onto the semi-list and now onto the limit list. It was something that was supposed to balance the game, but when you take away the ability of your opponent summoning something constantly while you summon little gadgets, it starts to become really overpowered really quickly. But Solemn Warning gets a perfect score, 10 out of 10. Moving on. Why am I mentioning this card? I'm going to tell you. Because you can only activate it during battle phase, and only when the effective opponent's monster is activated, you negate the activation and destroy it. But here's where the card becomes so good. Wind Up Zenmains, Fortune Tune, Battle Recruiters, Gorge, Tragodia. They all get pooped on by this card. A lot of those cards are pretty much ran. Not all the time, but pretty much. And I feel like we haven't seen the full power chivalry just yet. And I wanted to make a mention of it on this list. So maybe that, not it'll get price raised, but more people actually look at it because we're in, as everyone's saying, such a diverse format. Mermails, spellbooks, and dragon rulers at top. Very diverse. But this also works on Lind. which is through battle phase if you do it right. Like if I attack and Lin goes to the graveyard. Situational, I know. And that's why we're giving it a 5 out of 10, but I still wanted to mention it because it was one of the better ranking cards that maybe over time it'll get better. The creme de la creme of the time, Pod Duality made its way into many, many decks. It hyped up gadgets to give them the perfect consistency that they would need. And it's still used in a lot of decks to this day. At the time, this was an $80 card a piece because Konami took it from a super rare straight up to a secret. It was one of the reasons you bought this set, and it was one of the reasons the set sold out. And it still has, I don't want to say power. I like using the word, it has power of consistency, which in normal terms is saying that any deck that includes Power Duality will get a consistency boost, as long as it doesn't hinder their special summoning. So still to this day, Pod Duality makes such an appearance and such a strong strength. We may not seeing it meta-wise, but it gives a lot of those tier 2 decks and a lot of the inconsistent decks just a little tiny bit of a boost to help them make their way along. And that goes without saying. And I'm sorry to say it won't get a perfect score because of that, but we're giving it a 9 out of 10. And that's all we can really say about Pod Duality. I'll be honest, I think this thing was poop at first, but it's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. It's semi-generic because you need a psychic non-tuner, so semi-generic. Maybe you will get more psychics that aren't like, more attribute, less attribute, more, less attribute and type, more, archetype. But anyway, moving on. Once returned during your main phase, you pick up one random card in your opponent's hand and call what it is. And if you gain it right, you call it right. It gains 1,000 attack into the opponent's end phase. Now, it doesn't seem like a lot, but it's 3,400. And it could steal games. I love anything that steals games. And it's level 6. It's wins, so that's kind of awkward, but all psychics are kind of awkward, They got the mental problems. Someone's going to laugh at that. But no, I really wanted to just like mention it on this, and it's not a outstanding card, hence we're giving it 5 out of 10. And we're trying to look at the good stuff, and well, this was it, kind of. One before last, Fable Raven found its ways in Dark Worlds for people who wanted to, I guess, run it. And at the time, it did seem like a good idea. I'm not gonna lie, it really did. Because Trans Archfiend wasn't released at the time, and you could do stupid things with Fable Raven and all that. A lot of times in Japan, it was run by the normal Fable deck, and I know I constantly say this once in a while. I feel like this card hasn't lived up to its full potential. If we get something that goes, when you discard, you get another card to your hand from your graveyard or whatever, then this card's going to be that much better. The only reason I didn't really care for it is because of the fact that you go so minus to overextend on the board. And I think everyone who's been watching the channel long enough knows I really don't like overextending unless there's full protection when it comes to the overextension. But with that said, and everything I can mention about them, I'm going to give Fable Raven a 5 out of 10. I know some of you won't agree with that, but that's what the comment section's for. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. Moving on. And for our last card we're covering from Duelist Revolution for the point system is Street Patrol. It made Infinities that much better. Running in twos, get that Archfiend out, get that Avenger, start syncing up, start doing stupid stuff with Necromancer, and now we see it in loops with Infinities that go on for 20 minutes while the opponent wins because you run out of time on Div Pro. It's kind of sad, but true. So Street Patrol is definitely gonna, get a mention here. And besides Infinities, I do have to say there's other decks besides Infinities. Cold Steel Swarm that can run this card. Archfiends can run this card. They all get a bonus off an extra special summon from it. So you want to put it to you that way. And finally, we're going to give it a 7 out of 10 to round off the Duelist Revolution. Let's move on to Duelist Genesis. Whoa, hold the phone before we move on. We're going to have a bonus round for each one, and we're going to do Duelist Revolution. So let's go on to see if we can earn an additional 50 points. It'll be fair because the Duelist Genesis can do the same. All you have to do is find about 7 good cards. Why 7? 7's my lucky number, hence I like the lucky number. AD Changer's 1 for giving um, Empty Jar a push. Generic Beast support. I know I'm not naming a card. I'm talking like Egotistical Ape, stuff like that. Is number 2 because, let's be honest, they didn't really have much after that. Scraps and Watts. I mentioned Scraps. I didn't mention Watts. So that's 4. And that's 4 right there. Materia Bamboo Shoot. It was really hyped for the time. That's 5. Amazons. That's 6. Because Amazons needed the support. I could say Lockcat. I could say the generic Psychic support, which wasn't all that great. I could say Unicorns. And I could say, I know there's one more somewhere down here. Oh, Flamewell Pawn being imported. So the Duelist Revolution is... So with that said, with the bonus round, now we mentioned all those cards, the final score of the Duelist Revolution is 124 out of 150. Possible 150 with the bonus round. So let's move on to Duelist Genesis and see what... Kicking off our Duelist Genesis is the Gladiator Beastie quest. Now, why a quest? Something I can bring back War Chariot from the graveyard from the previous set being Phantom Darkness. It makes my list any day of the freaking week because, let's be honest, all you need is a GB and this thing brings it back and you can set the freaking thing down because you're in main phase 2 and then you could just set a Wabaku, protect your quest, swap out, summon Marullo, and then pop their stuff, and if they try to drop Gore's War Chariot, that sounds legit enough to you, doesn't it? It just, I could sit here all day talking about it, but I'm going to give it a solid 8 out of 10, because that's what it is. It's a solid card. It's not broken or overpowered. It's just a solid card for a solid archetype. It's about to get kinky in here. Wink, wink. So now we have a cat who had a heart attack that popped out and freaked everyone out. No, honestly, this is probably one of the cards that got better over time because of Mystic Piper and the Lavels and anything that's a level 1 synchro tuner with level 2 synchro. Rank 1 abuse anyone? Pull out the Treeborn Frog from the graveyard. It's a spirit monster. You get back, do Mystic Piper again and again and again and again. I think you know where that one's going. But no, honestly, it's Dark Support too. It's a beast. And it was just random that it was in set. It's like, look at this card. And you're like, oh my god, I could synchro with this. After, like, the Teledad format, you know, we actually got stuff that can abuse it. It was one of those cards that, over time, got more play. When it first came out, there was really no deck that could run it. You know, unless you were, like, troll-level Skull Servant. And back then, that deck really didn't work it nearly as well. You know, it was missing a lot of the foundation that we have in the deck now. But this is definitely one that has gotten a lot better over time. You can even use it in Blue Eyes now. Ooh, Blue Eyes. So with that said, I'm looking forward here. We're going to give it a solid 7 out of 10 because 7 solid and it's a pussycat. Moving on. There's no way in hell, the only time I'm going to say hell this entire video, that you can do a Duelist Genesis anything without mentioning Stardust Dragon. Because let's be honest, when Stardust came out, a lot of people are not going to know this. When Stardust came out, everyone cried broken. It changed the game. You had protection all of a sudden. The closest thing was the set prior was Prime Material Dragon. Sorry, I had to take a sip because my throat's dry as freaking as a desert. Now, why is it that Discord changed the game so much? Prime Material had to be used in the main deck. Stardust just came out of the extra. It was like, done. I'm here. What's up? Who's chilling? Who needs protection? You tell me Stardust and Dark Arm don't scare you with a freaking set 2 back rail. That scares the out of me when we don't have Heavy Storm or something. Just get Stardust off the field. Now, given that we do have rank 3s that just jump over Stardust for days. I'm not stupid, I know. Given that we do have monsters that can deal with Stardust, that's what we call power creep. You know, it starts creeping up a little bit down your spinal cord and finds its way in there, changes everything that you know now. Till you're a parasitic. Okay, I'm getting off track. No, but Stardust, honestly, I probably scared the hell out of someone. Stardust, honestly, is one of those better cards that came out of the Duelist Genesis. And we're going to look at it like everything, at the end of the video. But Stardust was the key essential thing next to Goyle Guardian. Who's, hint, hint, he's here. He's in the back waiting for his time. But Stardust is still, to this day, one of those better cards. And you cannot tell me that you just don't love him, I mean, he's only got 2,500, but let's look at it this way. Heavy Storm came back tomorrow, and you were playing a heavy back row deck. You play Starlight Road. He's in your extra deck. You love him. You know it. Anyway, we're going to give Stardust Dragon an 8 out of 10. We would have given him a 7, but we love the damn thing too much. Love, we means me, okay? Just so it's clear. All right, moving on. Teleport has to be mentioned anytime we mention Duelist Genesis. It still hasn't gotten a freaking reprint. What kind of BS is that? It's been like 2008. Come on, Ryu, you know this. It's been 5 good years. And this thing has not gotten a reprint. And this thing has found its way in multiple decks throughout that time. Once we get the card that Japan has, it looks like a self-bomber. That's a giant Exceed. Karakuri, oh my god, they get silly with what they do. Like, super silly. An emergency teleport's part of that. A free summon for my deck? Yes, please. Free Rise Belt for my deck? Yes, please. Free tuner for my deck? Yes, please. This card gets better and better and better and better and better and better. Now, at one point, it was busted. I won't lie, at one point. But right now, I don't really see it too much as a problem because the level 1's gone, hence why. If level 1 was around, oh, forget it. Dragon Ruler abuse for days. But we must end it somewhere, so we're going to give Emergency Teleport a solid 9 out of 10. We would have given it a perfect score, but it's not a perfect card, hence why I didn't get a perfect score. Alright, moving on. Ryu made a boo-boo. He admits his boo-boo. He's going to put a Ninja Turtle Band-Aid on there. This actually comes out of what we're talking about right now. It doesn't come out of Phantom Darkness. I was actually a little surprised when I was going down the thing, and let's be honest here. I've dealt with so many like packs, and they're both like OP sets, so I made a boo-boo. I'm going to kick something off the list. It's all good. No one's going to care about Hand of the Six Samurai. Sorry. It'll get a mention later in the bonus round, but Gladiator Beast War Chariot is one of the most OPest things you can have in a deck. Anything that hits Monster's Effect, that's Speed Spell 3, and when I say Speed Spell 3, for those of you who don't know, it's basically the speed of the card. Counters 3, trigger, I believe, is 2, and your pretty much basic spell card, say Heavy Storm is 1. So MST would be like 2, and this would be 3. There are 4s, and 4s are just ridiculous. Like, 4s, and I don't, I just chain everything. It's just ridiculous. I love you, Fable Unicorn. But that's not in the set. So Gladiator Beast War Chariot's going to make the cut to here. And I have a score ready for it, but that's okay. I can give it one anyway. It negates any monster effect and destroys it. That, without question, only requirement is a GB. Without question, I'm going to give this card a 10 out of 10. And you're going to make sure I count that. A quick little mention, and it's actually funny. The War Chariot itself actually hints at the GB monster that was yet to come and didn't come to Extreme Victory. It was the monkey. I forgot the monkey's name. Someone will put it in the comments. Herald of the Orange Light, I can't leave out because Duelist Genesis, hello. It gave fairies a new toy to play with. And given that we didn't fully see meta until we reached Agents and Christia and all that fun stuff, that's okay. Like everything on this list, well, not everything, good chunk of it, it's one of those cards that got better over time. It was kind of like, oh my god, I need this in 3s. It's so powerful. And honestly, a lot of us overlooked it as pretty much the first Effect Railer because, like, before Effect Railer came out, because of the fact that it needed a fairy. But, when you looked at it, you're like, dang, that would be pretty powerful. So I'm going to give it a solid 7 out of 10 because it's a solid, negator and destroys the monster. It doesn't leave it there, it destroys it. It's a 7 out of 10. This card made its first appearance during this set as a secret rare. And for those of us who were lucky enough to pull it, we found it gave our Lightsworns a hell of a lot more consistency than Lightsworns ever had at the time. And still, even at 1, it gives a lot more consistency than the deck ever had. Basically, all you gotta do is send top 3 and you add a level 4 lower Lightsworn monster from your deck to your hand. What's not to like about that? Grab that Lumina. Grab that Lila. Grab that Jane to beat over stuff. Those are pretty much the main 3 you always want to go for. Sometimes, rarely Geralt, but still. It's one of the best cards out of the entire set. And I can't talk highly enough of it, so obviously enough. 10 out of 10 for Charger Light Brigade for making Lightsworns busted and for allowing us to splash Lightsworns everywhere. This was the card that did it. So 10 out of Goyo Guardian is a change of heart, a snatch steal, a mind control, a big eye, but better than all of them. I went there. As long as it destroys a monster per battle. It's a level 6, 2800 body, and when it destroys opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you special summon that monster to your side of the field in defense mode. That thing allowed you to synchro with Plague Spurter. This is one of the reasons Plague Spurter went up in price so fast. One of the reasons, not the whole reason. And it's one of those cards that if it came off the ban list tomorrow, I wouldn't mind it, honestly. I'd have to play more trap cards, but this thing would be in every single extra deck that synchros without question for 6. Anything in the world. Goyo Guardian is one of those like top, synchros that you always wanted to play. So I think you know where I'm going with this 10 out of 10 perfect score. Moving on. To end the whole Duelist Genesis before we go into the final bonus round and the conclusion of this video and the winner of Pack versus Pack, Duelist Genesis versus Duelist Revolution. Thought Ruler Archfiend will be the last card we talk about. And honestly, it's one of the better synchros that we have for level 8. But to outshine now, then back then it was really good because it was like, great, you summon Stardust? Beat over it, gain 2,500. To my life, you take 2, and I didn't really got to worry about targeting because I can negate it. And remember, at the time, a lot of cards targeted. Right now, they don't target, not everything targets nearly as much. So it's still a solid card, but it's not to the level it was when it was first released. Also known as Mental Spirit Demon, which sounded amazing in Japanese. We got stuck with Thought Ruler Archfiend, but that allowed us to use Archfiend support, making it that much better. To finalize, what am I going to give this? A solid 7 out of 10 because that's what it is, a solid card. All right, let's go on. So this is definitely one I want to mention and one that I hope down the line gets more support is Gear Town. And it sounds something out of Kingdom Hearts. I know this sounds like I'm getting off track. But basically, if you're in a mirror match, this card's horrible. We're both playing Ancient Gears. This card is horrendous. And you look at it close enough, you'll see why. But it found its way in Demise Town. It found its way in Malefics. We still haven't seen the full extent of Gear Town. I love Gear Town. I'm going to do something with Ancient Gears next week, probably. But I love this card to death. It's one of the better field cards of the entire game. I mean, come on. When it gets removed, you get to special summon an Ancient Gear monster from your hand deck or graveyard. What kind of bullshit is that? Oh, let me just summon my Ancient Gear Gadgetron Dragon with 3,000 points. Both players tribute summon an Ancient Gear monster for 1 less tribute that has a tribute requirement. I get to summon an Ancient Gear Golem for 1 tribute, and I could special summon Ancient Gear, the little one, to tribute for Gear Golem, and Gear Golem attacks. You can't use spells or traps. That seemed pretty good to me. So definitely going to make it onto our mentionables. And it's going to get an 8 out of 10 because it is a very solid card. And I still feel we haven't seen the full extent of the power of it. Moving on. Ladies and gentlemen, the final question is, can the Duelist Genesis find 7 good cards that are good, not okay? They have to be great stuff to make 132 points to outdo Duelist Revolution. So let's look down here, and I'm not going to mention Quibble Hedgehog too much, but I will give it a nod, so that'll be 1. The golems weren't all that great. They didn't really make an appearance, but Mind Master did. So Mind Master will get a nod. That's 2. Krebons, I didn't mention on this list. That's 3. Because Krebons is something that made its way into Teledad and still makes its way into a few decks. Genis Light's form Endure, I'm just going to say Genis, it's not that great. Oystermeister was a great card. And at some point, if we got a good tuner, it would make a great card again. So I'm going to give it that's 4. I'm going to give it to it. Don't hate me, I'm giving it to it. Red Dragon Archfiend, not that great of a card. Magical Android was for a while. So we'll mention Magical Androids, that's 5. Desynchro, without question, I gotta mention that. That's 6. Can I get the final card? Is all we have to know. Lightwing Saber is Boop. Recycling Batteries, Book of Eclipse. I'm looking through here because it's been a while. And I think that's it. I think that's really it. Yep. Oh, and Hand of the Six Samurai, because I keep forgetting that card, and someone's going to go, you mentioned it, but you forgot it. So, without question, it's going to get the extra 50 points, and for giving us Kunai with Shane for that lulz and the Toy Magician, that just wasn't all that great. But Splendid Venus really was, so. We're going to give the Duelist Revolution an additional 50 points. So the final score is 132 to 124. Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of Pack versus Pack today, whenever you're watching this tomorrow, is the Duelist Genesis. If you don't agree with our opinion, then leave it down below and create your own scoreboard. Make sure to include a bonus round and your reasons why. And let us know what you want to see in the next Pack versus Pack. I'm ready for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Council, and this has been one of my favorite videos to create. Honestly, it really has. I will now start work on card versus card besides the subscriber showcase, which is probably going to be coming out after this. Like the day after, right after this, I'm not fully sure. But we usually do this monthly, and now that we have the new way of doing it, we want to know one thing before we do another one. Do you like this way, or do you like the older way? The older way, we just ran down everything. We gave a winner because that pack was better, for whatever reason. This is, to me, it's more understanding why we chose it and why the points add up. And the bonus round, they're usually kind of random. I like 7. I'm kind of okay with 7. Next time I'm probably going to do around 10. I try to make a balance for both packs, see if they got those numbers. But Duelist Genesis just gets the win because it gave Teledad that much more. And Duelist Revolution is still a great set. We're not calling it bad. I just want to clear the error on that in case anyone, gets the wrong idea. So I will see you next video. I'm ready for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Council. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't, make sure to subscribe, like our Facebook page, and like us down below in the little box. Just ram that like button if you want to, and comment down below. We thank you for your time, and we'll see you next video, hopefully.